Your Luck video. My name is Eric, and today we'll be reviewing Hoyuk, which is a 2006 release by Mage Company, and the designer is Pierre Canu. Alright, so this is a 2 to 5 player game. Lasts about, I think, 60 minutes or so, but the rules explanation will take about maybe 15 to, I think, about 15 minutes as well. Yeah, so this is a Alright, so this is a tile placement game where essentially players will be we are different tribes, but we are coming together to build a village. Right, so the main board itself will be where we are building the village. The village will comprise of several different blocks of buildings. The blocks of buildings can be contributed by different players. Alright, so the players are denoted by different colors as well, and different players will also be playing different clans with different powers. So the game is you can play different modes. You can play the easy mode, the intermediate mode, and then the advanced mode. So we started off by playing the advanced mode because I'm quite sure that my classmates all could play the advanced mode. So we decided to play the advanced modes. Yeah. So during the game, there are different phases. There are actually 4 different phases. The first phase is construction. So each player will be given one of these tiles, which will have which will tell you what you can build during a turn. You only get one, so you only can do with it what you will. You cannot choose from any others, and this is the only one you have. So each player will do one construction, and then after that we do a second construction, and that's the end of the first phase of construction. Second phase is catastrophe. So we'll be drawing one of these catastrophe cards, and then we'll be doing what the catastrophe does depending on the board, right? Because most of the catastrophe will see whether you have the most buildings in a single block, or the largest block, or most shrines in the block. So this is how the catastrophe will happen. And then after that, we will go to the third phase, which is giving cards. So these are the aspect cards that will be given to us. We'll go block by block and see each block who has the most number of villagers, highest building, the most number of 2-story buildings, most buildings, and so on and so forth. Then the player who has gotten that achievement will get one card. Alright. Then after we move to the phase 4, which is in a way kind of cleanup. So cards that you have been used during that round, you get to return it back to one of the stacks that you choose, and then the start player will get to choose who they'll give the start player token to, and that player will be the start player for the next round. Okay, so that's a very fast overview of the rules. Gameplay wise, I think I'll start first. The gameplay wise it's kind of, I mean, there's several interesting elements in the game. However, whether it all comes together nicely in this game is, I think, questionable right now for most of us that we played the game. During the game, the score track is not really in use until near the end most of the time, because we kind of keep the cards. We didn't explain, the cards actually you can use in 2 ways. Either you can discard the card to get points, or you can actually discard the card to build more of these things on the board. The different things you can build on the board are like single buildings, or you can build double-story buildings, or you can build pens. You can add shrines and ovens, and then kettles and villages. So all these will help you to win the majority in each of these assessments when we do in phase 3. I think right now, I think it is medium or lightweight kind of game. It's not too thinky. It can get very thinky if you want it to. Alright, but right now we kind of played it quite casually, so we weren't really super competitive. Right, I felt that we weren't so super competitive, because if you want, you can actually analysis paralysis. You can spend a lot of time thinking during a turn of what you want to do, because there's quite a lot on the board to take in and analyze. The components right now are quite good. I feel that the art is quite nice. The components are quite good. Symbols wise could have been better. They could have used more of the more common symbols that we're used to. Some of the meeples, they could have used more of the common meeples that we use. For example, these are 3 meeples together. Alright, they represent villages. They could have used the standard 1 meeple that we find in Carcassonne and stuff like that. The cattle, we have no idea why this is a cattle, because it looks very strange. So they could have just used a normal cow. I'm not sure how to use stuff like that. But the components are quite nice, quite sturdy, quite thick cardboard, quite chunky bits. Gameplay wise, maybe Alex, I can I'll just introduce my classmates. Right, so this is Chris, Alex, Misha, and Wyatt. Right. So maybe we'll just go around the table and just give your thoughts. All right. So we'll go with Chris.
Yeah, I'd agree with the analysis paralysis type of thing. During a turn, it could slow down when you're just, especially towards a later game, because we had like 6 villages at the end, and you have to really look at them and see what possibilities you have, see what all the possibilities other people have. So it could feel a little slow in between turns when people are taking a while to think about what they want to do. The catastrophes seem a little like tacked on. Where I mean, it's good to have the random element, but there's nothing other than putting the shaman on a place that blocks it. But that never came into effect. Seems a little random.
It can be quite devastating also. I think I think Wyatt, you suffered quite a lot from the catastrophe, as you were saying, because we can't plan for it, right? And when it occurs, and I mean the symbols used on the catastrophe cards, I mean it's really quite hard to understand.
You definitely have to research in the book what it means.
I mean the art is cool, but the symbols wise it could have been better. And I think Wyatt, you suffered quite a lot from the catastrophes.
Yeah, I did. It seems like it was more fun at the beginning, where the decisions you made, right, kind of result in you winning or losing. But later on, with the hidden cards that people play and the catastrophes, it seems that whatever you plan kind of can come to no avail.
Yeah. So it's more like tactical than strategy. I think strategic wise, do you think you can plan like a long term plan kind of thing?
It plays overall kind of like a Euro, like super precise, build an engine, you build things and you gain majorities in areas to get more cards, which give you more things. There's this very kind of like non-luck based construction element that then is like also assisted by this huge luck element because of disasters. And I think they're actually a bit at odds with each other. Because when you're doing something that's this kind of like, with this style of like building game, it's the game about not being inefficient. And like even small differences in efficiency have like huge impacts. But then that's kind of overshadowed by just the fact that you can lose like half of your investments in a turn if you're unlucky.
You were quite screwed in the beginning as well because of the construction tiles, right?
Some of the tiles, it's very easy to lose actions, especially early on. The cattle require previous investments, and I drew a bunch of those early on. And the shaman, who was not very useful, also eats up an action. I did okay in the end, but I think that was actually because the one block that got hit over and over again. I had zero investment in it because I kind of figured it was going to hit maybe, but that was luck. I realized in retrospect. That was just, it could easily have been anything.
You were second, so it's quite good.
Yeah, I think that's purely because I didn't get all those like lose half of your investments.
I got hit every time in the center.
But the getting the 5 of a kind at the end of the game is really important.
Yes.
Which also feels a bit random in the sense that you can get a lot of cards, but to get exactly 5 of a kind, you can't really. It's hard to strategize for 5 of a kind. So that feels pretty random, but it's worth a ton of points, and you get the superpower.
There's some interesting elements. For example, like the first player, you decide who will be the first player because that kind of determines how, in a way, how the next round will proceed. Because you don't want to be the first player, you want to be the last player so that you can then swoop in and then place stuff.
But there was some advantages of being first because you get to pick what villages. Because there was one time there was 3 wild cards up. You were first, so you picked the village where you got all of them. So you were able to get the cards. You could sort of pick and choose. There was a time where I was first player and I really wanted to go first again, but I couldn't. So I passed it somebody near me, so I would go one of the first. But then sometimes it's good to be last because you could play more like at the very end, sort of swoop in and get those points. Because if you play early, a lot of times your stuff is nullified. Because if you're tied, nobody gets the points. So if you're slightly ahead, somebody's going to nullify you, and then just it gets frustrating. But
I think that's one of the interesting parts that I noted down, and I think the playing the cards wise is also kind of interesting because they give you a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do. You can have a lot of screw over with other people, but then for the person that you are targeting, they will feel that it's very random because like I unless I remember what cards you took, I make sure that I will not you off the kind of thing. So it's going to be quite difficult. But for you, if you're playing the cards, it's a lot of flexibility. You can swoop in to get a few crucial points that you need. The other points that we feel that could be improved, for example, is since the game was created in 2006, it does feel a bit dated right now, depending because of all the components and the rules, for example. Some of the symbols could have been improved. The clan powers are actually quite hard to use. Clan powers can only be activated if you play 5 of a kind in terms of the card, and then you get to use your power. It's kind of hard to use, but Chris managed to do it twice in the same round. Yeah, so that kind of helped him. In the sense that I think when I said I'm not sure whether it's balanced, because I think like some powers end up very much useful. Like you use your power, but it wasn't that much.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it got me a couple of points at the end, but it wasn't overwhelming.
Yeah.
And in fact, yeah, like mine was I just got to place 2 of a very specific type of thing, where somebody else got a power that was you could take any 2, and you usually just take the 2 that I could build, but you can also give a lot more flexibility, and you were depriving somebody else of it.
It's like a 4-item switch.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't expecting from like a game where otherwise everybody's identical. I was expecting. I was completely caught off guard by the fact there were any powers like that.
I think this game also rewards multiple plays, because after a few more plays, you know what you are aiming for, and you will not create a situation where you're very screwed and you're like boxed in one corner and you cannot do anything else after that.
Yeah.
So and also because if you get hit by a catastrophe quite often at the start, you may not be able to get cards later on during the game, and you're kind of screwed then.
Oh no, that is, I think, partially because we played with the most advanced rules the first time. I think that to some extent, kind of, this game would work well if you start with like the very simple, kind of quick, game ends quickly version, and then you do that just to get like a couple of the unintuitive things. So there are a bunch of unintuitive rules, like you almost always want to go last.
Yeah.
There are specific times when going first is good, but like is a general rule. And then just like the fact that you see this board, and you're spending most of your time building up, all these like shrines and kitchens and stuff, and really those don't matter for your final points at all. It's just cards, and it's really kind of, I got like I think 2/3 of my points from cards. I think you got like even more than that.
Yeah. I got at least 24 points from cards out of my 43.
The final endgame, there's an endgame scoring as well. Each block you analyze to see who has the largest family and get points per house, as well as if you play the advanced rules, then you get points for the villagers and the cattle. But those points are really very minute.
Yeah, it's like 1 point or 1 point per. But because a lot of the shrines and kitchens and stuff end up not being very good near the end, because our stacks for those were completely gone by the end, because people were putting them all under cattle.
That's because you guys were jerks, though. Like to be fair,
it wasn't me.
I put my. But this was quite kind of interesting in the sense that we can kind of control where the scoring goes forwards.
And if the strategy
but if you're in control, then the other people screwed.
That's right. One thing I noticed didn't happen in our game, but I could see it happening. This positive feedback loop that when somebody starts doing really well and somebody starts doing really bad, it's only going to push the person doing well even further ahead, because they'll have more access to cards. Because if you get behind, it's really hard to get control of any village. So you're not going to get cards, so you're going to get even further behind. That didn't really happen in our game, but I could see that somebody could get hit by a catastrophe a couple times and then they're just
Although
out.
I would say the final scoring, there's a pretty big disparity from front to the end, so it might have happened and we just didn't notice it.
Yeah, well, did you feel that you were near the end, like that you had no way of winning?
Yeah, I knew maybe in the middle of the game that I couldn't get cards anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you had quite a lot of cards right at the beginning.
One round I got cards where...
then everybody started focusing on you and then...
That's it,
And you got the catastrophe in the middle.
Yeah. He got hit a couple times pretty hard.
I actually, I very much feel like the big determinant, like there are 2 things that determine if you win. One is like the least or the less fights you get into, the better you do, generally. Because the game works on a penny auction system, basically, where it's like, I have 1 shrine in this area, and then somebody else puts down 1, so you put down 1 more, and eventually, like, you could end up in a situation where you both have 3, and then it's like, it only cost me 1 to win, but then I've spent four actions basically to get one card, whereas this other person spent 4 actions to get 4 cards. And you don't really control who fights with you, and it's always worth it for you to keep doing that, like 1 action to take it back. But it means that to a large extent, how well you do is based on other people's actions towards you. And I think that was actually a big part of the problem, is why it looked very frightening early on, because you got a huge set of cards early, and everybody just started messing with them. And then you just had this nice little village off to the side.
Most of my points came from this one little town where he had a couple pieces in it, but I was ahead by a few, so he never challenged me in it. And I just had a constant flow coming in from it.
It would be interesting to how this played out the second time, now that we're more familiar with the patterns.
It feels like the strategy that emerged was like that you need to get 2 or 3 ahead so that nobody tries to challenge you. But we didn't really realize that until the mid to late game.
But then it still has like this slightly painful thing where it's
you're
like
playing inefficiently if you put 2 or 3.
Whoever chooses to challenge you is now playing like at a disadvantage. They're kind of sacrificing themselves to keep you from running away with it, which means that
and there's so many blocks on the village. You're trying to protect all your blocks. You cannot protect all your blocks, so you kind of start to focus on 1 or 2. If I want to catch up with you, for example, then I will need to focus on that block. Then I kind of sacrifice the other blocks that other people can swoop in and set the score.
That's actually something that I do like about this, though, is that I feel like I didn't do almost any of that. There was no one block that I was like, yes, this is one that I'm going to focus on. It was always, what 2 things can I dominate in this block? And I want to have a presence in all of them. That worked out fairly well for me, actually. I think that just having one that you really, really focus on dominating is actually kind of dangerous. Because you just lose so much from those lose half of your things buildings, whereas if you just have like 2 or 3, I think 3 is actually the optimal number. Because then you have 2 buildings, and then that you actually build stuff on. You have a 3rd one. Whenever you have to lose half of your stuff, you just lose that 1 extra building. You just build it right back. And then you never lose more than one like resource. Or you basically never lose more than 1 action from a disaster card. If you do it that way.
So I think to summarize, I would say that the game, you need to try it before you buy it. I think for us, based on our comments so far, I think that with a few tweaks, I think this could be a very fun game to play again. Alright, as of now, right now, you definitely need to try it before you buy it. Thanks to Mage Company for this review copy. I think they're having a Kickstarter right now. They released 1 expansion last year, and they're going to have Kickstarter for another expansion coming out in this year. Alright, so if what we said interests you, do take a look at the Kickstarter and take a look at the website for the more details on the game. Thank you very much. Bye.